You call that radio TV? Below. You call that radio TV?
This is You Call That Radio.
This is You Call That Radio TV. Tonight, Stevie Creed, also better known as the Brooklyn Scotsman. It's an incredible story. I don't know if you've seen the documentary before, but I highly suggest that you do. An amazing film that was, I don't know if it's still on iPlayer, but I watched it round about Christmas time, just before Christmas time. And it's a phenomenal story. Absolutely buzzing that Stevie's going to be joining us tonight. Shout out Stephen June forming a queue at the door, and we're in. Hello, Ali. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to everyone who's been tuning in this week. It's been a good week. We've had some amazing guests. We had Gail Porter. Watch that after this if you've missed it, if you've not seen it already. We've had Melissa Kelly. We've had Melissa Vita. And we've had the unity of the Lorettes, Kutcher Cash, and David Blair, all on the show last night as well. And we also did a wee bonus show today called Winter Water. You should go and check that out as well. Winter Water's going to change the game. I'm not going to say too much about it just now, but we will be going back to Winter Water. I hope we can go live tonight to tonight's very special guest, Stevie. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, mate. You all right?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very well. It's good to speak to you, man. I just watched your documentary in December there. Is it still available, or is there a way to watch it just now?
I don't think it's up just now. It was put out 3 times, so I think they might put it out again, but I'm not sure. It was getting like pirated and stuff. Someone put it on YouTube, but I think they've had to take it down, eh? So, yeah. But hopefully it goes back on. But thanks for watching it and stuff. You know, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. It'll definitely be back. Man. It's such a great story. I missed it the first time round because I do remember the name Brooklyn Scotsman, and I just liked the title straight away, but I had no idea if I'd actually sort of looked a bit deeper, then it would have been right up my street because it's absolutely amazing, man.
Thank you.
I don't know where to begin, really. Let's just begin at the start, I suppose, of the story for this particular story. Now, my understanding is, sorry, is it East Coast you're from? Edinburgh?
Yeah, Edinburgh. I'm Broxbourne just now. I live there, but I'm from Edinburgh, so
you're in Edinburgh, and understand that you initially go to Brooklyn for boxing. You're starting things off as a boxing career. Can you? Let's go rewind back to that time. What made you choose Brooklyn, and what was the thoughts going through your head when you because you must have been young at the time?
Yeah, I was a teenager, so I was 19 when I initially went out there, and I was boxing. I was also doing music as well. Like I started writing and recording at like 12, but that was kind of a secret thing because I was more known for the boxing, and then a lot of stuff kind of happened in my life, and I wasn't really the best at school. I kind of politely got told to leave, and just a few personal things happened to me. And then there was one night I had this dream. I was reading Sugar Ray Robinson's book. So I was reading his book, and then I had this dream, and I saw like this big long walkway with all these buildings on either side of it. And Sugar Ray Robinson was in my dream, and he told me I need to go to New York. And it wasn't really a specific detail of what to do. He just said, you need to get out to New York, you need to go. And a few people close to me had passed away and stuff. So I kind of felt like with me running about wild and stuff, I think it would be good to maybe get out and just see what I could do and challenge myself out there. But it took a while. I had to save up money. So I was working at Scottish Water at the time, just saved up money and got on a plane and went out there. So that was it. It kind of just started from there. And then when I went to Brooklyn because all the best gyms were in Brooklyn at that time. There was Gleason's, but there was also a new gym in East New York, which was the Starrett City Boxing Club, and that's where a lot of the young, hungry fighters were coming from. So Gleason's was where a lot of the tourists would go, and it had all the history. But Starrett City was in the heart of the sort of the area where all these young, hungry fighters were coming from. So that's why I went to Brooklyn initially, and then I thought, hip hop, which I was involved in, and boxing. You've got the home of birthplace of Mike Tyson and Jay-Z. I just thought that would be a good place to test myself. And if I thought I was good, then why not go out there and see how good I am, and test myself against that environment.
Well, I mean, I think that's why it resonated a lot with me, because when I was a teenager, I also jumped in a plane, bereavement, stuff like that, and just things were going not the way that it wasn't looking good. So it's like making a fresh start. And it's I remember like people all putting bets on how long I'd last. Like people saying I'd last a day, last a week, or whatever.
Where did you go? Where did you go out?
I went to Cyprus.
Oh, right, aye.
It was my mate got a job. Well, my mate actually got a job for a company working in a Spain, somewhere in Spain. So I went for the same company, but they just changed it at the last minute, and I was going to Cyprus myself. And at that point, I'd already told everyone I was leaving, so I couldn't back down, man. So I just got on a plane myself and disappeared. And yeah, man, totally changed my life as well. I mean, but it's what was the support like for your friends or your family? Were they like, what are you doing? Or did anyone think that you were being real, that you were actually going to do it? Or were you getting support? Or
I think I had a few really supportive friends, but when they knew where I was going, they were really worried, because they Googled it, and it was where I was staying was named, well, right next to New York murder capital. Brownsville was named New York murder capital, and there was this high schools that have metal detectors where they go through for weapons and stuff. But they did kind of support me. My mum, actually, she was a little bit worried, because obviously I was young, but I told her I was going out for 2 weeks. So I never actually told her how long I was going for, because I knew if I said I'm going out there for months and months, she would, probably be a little bit more worried. I said I was going for 2 weeks to see the sights, and didn't really fill her in on because if I told her where I was going, that would have been her just going crazy. My mum's very emotional, so she would have been quite worried. So I was like, oh, it's fine, I'm going to Disneyland, Mum, I'll be fine, just let me go in that. And it was good. I saved my money and just got on a plane. But I did have support.
How long were you in? And I mean, were you obviously at that time, because I'm sure you would have had your own there must have been a little bit of trepidation, let's put it that way, about where you were going. So were you just going to, were you saying, well, we'll try it out and see how it goes first? Or were you just like, right, okay, after I'm there, I'm just going to phone her and tell her the plan? I mean, at what point do you tell your mum that you're not going to Disneyland, you're going to try and carve out a career in boxing or hip hop or whatever?
Well, it was funny, because I had this vision that I was wanting to go out there for about 6 months to a year, quite a long time to really make waves out there. And then I applied for a visa, because I was like, how can I get a visa to go to America? And I applied for a B2 visitor visa. I was 17 at the time. So, the visa process takes a long time. You get the interview, you do the application. It took me all this effort. You pay for it. You go down to London, and I went to the embassy and had to wait hours for the interview. And then when I went up to have my interview with the guy, eventually he told me that he couldn't give me a visa. So really, he said that it was because if they had any inclination that they thought that someone would be trying to emigrate there, then they couldn't give you a visa. But really, he just thought I was nuts. And I knew that at the time. He just thought I was out of my mind, because he was like, you're a young man, why are you going to America and all this stuff? And I was like, well, this is the home of hip hop. This is where all the fighters are coming from. This is the place I want to go and stuff. But they didn't give me a visa. So I just remember walking around in London going, what am I going to do? And then I just said, you know what? It's not going to stop me. I'm still going to go out there for 3 months. So I went out initially. And when I first went to Brooklyn, I was staying at this motel, because the motel was the only place I could get accommodation near the gym. And there was only one motel in the area. So when I got to Brooklyn, I pulled up to the motel, and it was quite good driving through all the city and seeing all the different neighborhoods. And it was like, I'm young in New York and stuff. And then when we started getting deeper and deeper, you started to see like the gangs and the Bloods and Crips and stuff on the streets. And I didn't really know that they were there. I thought that was just Los Angeles. I was a bit naive to that. And then when I pulled up to the motel, there was a group of Bloods across the road. And then I pulled up, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the cab driver just kind of like threw the suitcase at me and just drove off, just like, what you doing? But then I went into the motel, and then little did I know that was actually, it was renowned in New York for being, you know, heavy prostitution and drugs and stuff like that. So there was all that stuff going on there. And then I was there for 2 weeks, and I managed to find somewhere to stay. I called all these people on Craigslist to try and get a venue, try and get a place to stay. And then it was about, after that, I called my mum. I said, yo, I've just met these really nice people and I'm going to stay a bit longer. But I always had it in my mind I wanted to stay out there for a longer period. I just didn't know how or where, because it was over 10 years ago. So it wasn't like Facebook and stuff now. They had Facebook, but you couldn't form the connections you can now online. I had to try and figure out how to stay in these places. And, you know, New York's very expensive. So unless you know someone, it's very hard to find accommodation straight off the plane. So I was very lucky. I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest with me. I didn't know how to cross the road. I didn't know shit. I was getting beeped at. People were just shouting at me like, get a car, all this stuff. I'm standing. I don't know if you've been to New York, but it's like walk, and you walk and the cars come around the corner. And I'm like, fucking hell, people just shouting at me all the time. It was crazy. So I'm just a nut, and everything I do in life is always the wrong way. I end up managing to accomplish things, but I do it in the most unconventional, ridiculously illogical manner. So that's kind of what happened when I went out there, and I called her up, and she was like, all right, whatever, just whatever. Run wild, son.
Be careful. Be careful. And I mean, I've never been to New York or America. I would love to, maybe not right now. It seems a bit mad over there just now. But yeah, man, just what I mean, being in somewhere like New York would be a bit like a culture shock, I suppose, as well, because it is. Everyone says it just looks like you're on this. There's so many films TV programs have been filmed there, so it's got that feeling like you're just walking about a movie set. So it must have been quite a surreal experience going from Edinburgh to that.
Yeah, it was really surreal, and obviously you have your picture in your mind from all these films you've watched, and we're constantly steeped in American culture from being very young. But going out there, it was just a unique experience. I think because the area I went to wasn't Manhattan. I've been going back. This is crazy, right? I've been going back and forward to New York for about 5-6 years. So I've been living out there for years and years and years, and I've still not been up the Empire State Building. I've still not done the tourist things, but I've been in all these other places and met all these people. And I was in Brooklyn, in this area where I was really, I didn't see a white face for 3 months. So I was, and definitely not Scottish, but it was the environment I needed to be in at that time. And it was something that really changed the way I look at the world, and it changed the way people look at me. It gave me a tremendous amount of confidence, but it's just an insane place. I mean, you could be 1 minute, like for example, for me, I got involved in the fashion industry, I got involved in acting, I got involved in all these things, and it was purely just because New York's like that. One day you can wake up and you don't know where you're going to end up, and you know, I experienced so many different things. It's just been a great journey, but there is the land of opportunity, and it's very tough and recognized real out there. And if you're not honest with who you are or anything, then they don't accept you. But I think the fact that I was never someone who wanted to change like who I was, I never really wanted to dress a different way or change the way I talked or the way I acted. I think they embraced me because they realized this guy is a fish out of water and he's our friend. But at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be like anyone else. I'm just being me. And that's what people appreciate out there, just authenticity.
So yeah, so they're just you're in the sort of ghetto, and people are just like, you know, who are you, and what, you know, why have you came here all the way from Scotland? You've chose, and also suppose you are living that life, because obviously people that are living in the ghetto, they're not going to the Empire State Building or doing touristy things either.
No, it's like I guess, you know, like I grew up in Edinburgh, so it's like the Edinburgh Castle and stuff. I mean, I've got that tattooed on my back, but I've only been there like once. And it's something that we have on our doorstep, but we don't appreciate it. And when I was in New York, you're right, a lot of them, they call it the city. So Manhattan's the city, that they don't really have any need to go there unless they're working there or something. But I was living in the hood, as they say. So when I was there, I was totally, stuck out like a sore thumb. There wasn't any Scottish people there. And I was really the only white person at that time. I think now it's changing a little bit with gentrification, but back then I just remember being that. And I was really overwhelmed with how I got accepted, actually, although it was strange because kids would like look up to you, they'd be with their parents, little kids would look up because they'd never seen a white face before. And then cars would slow down and all these things. And you didn't notice it at first. You thought you were just imagining these things, but then it was happening all the time. So I think it was something that kind of changed my perspective on things, because I went out a little bit apprehensive and I did have a bravado. Like as I said, I have to change my mindset to survive out here, because if I go out here, you know, Stevie from Scotland, that's from the scheme rolling around, and I'm walking out there and I'm timid in a little bit. I'm slightly timid, or I even act like I don't know what I'm doing. People will take advantage of that, like the people that are scam artists, and they'll rob you. And I did get robbed a few times, but it would have been a lot worse had I not had this false bravado, which was like a coat of armor, which I put all over me. And it was, but when I got into my hotel room after walking in like I was the man and sitting on my bed, and I heard people having sex in the room next door and orgies were happening all the time, I just thought, like, you're fucked, mate. Like, I don't know, I didn't. I sat on the bed.
It's that perfect balance that you've got to do. That face you've got to do when it's like, I don't want any bother, but don't fuck with me, kind of thing that you've got to do if you're walking by a gang or something 24/7. And there's a lot of some amazing things that I want to talk about, man. It's such an amazing story. We've got tuned in. Alan is in the house. Hello, Alan. Bernie73 says, there's the laddie himself. Tam the Van says, Tyson came to Ducat in Denison. There you go. And yeah, what we're going to do just now is, guys, if you're watching this on Twitch or Facebook or Twitter, get the bus to YouTube. I'll put the link in the comments. So just click that link to watch the rest of the show. It's an amazing story. I want you all to be there, but YouTube sounds better, it looks better, and it's good to have everyone in the same chat. So while you're clicking that link, I'm going to play one of your tunes, man. We've got Traffic Life lined up. If you want to give us a little intro to that and what the song's about and how the video came about.
Yeah, so Traffic Life shot in Morden in Edinburgh, so it's close to where I grew up. And I'd been out in America for years and years, and then I came back to Scotland. I was working Domino's pizzas, and then I decided I wanted to do this song and do this video, and I kind of produced it and had this idea of having a child and his father, and the cycle continues. So Traffic Life's really about that sort of cycle that keeps continuing in life, and it goes into a little bit of a dark place, but it's something that I think a lot of people can relate to if you've experienced that, or if you've been touched by it by someone in your family. And I've had certain people, there was a guy actually that said to me that this saved his life from America. He was homeless and stuff, and he said this Traffic Life did something for him. So the video is in Edinburgh, and it's just that journey. So I hope you like it. It was done a good few years ago, but it's quite an important track, and it's one of, still to this day, probably the track that's had the most impact to people when I do it live. And, you know, it's a good feeling.
Amazing stuff, man. Let's check it out, guys. Get the bus to YouTube.
We're all fighting battles every day nobody sees. So picture this. Listen. I guess we've all got skeletons in our closet, from alcoholics to an addict's heroin in his pocket. Hard to acknowledge this topic when it's so holocaustic. Pulling wool over my eyes, tired and exhausted. Father figures living like he's got a death wish. No dinner, sipping whiskey bottle at his breakfast. Rejects us, aggressiveness, getting reckless. Swinging at my mother, he's meant to protect us. Oh, the irony, learn to rely on me. Revise memories and I can't can't breathe. In a dysfunctional family pulled down like gravity by a society that's a plague on our sobriety. Dad's ashamed, but who are we to blame? There's no bigger picture, just a picture of his wicked ways. Intoxicated today, can't change the way his habits inhabit this place of pain.
Can I help myself? I wanna be free to help myself. And you've been moving inside. Is this my heaven? Oh, please, can I help myself? Everything is passing by like traffic lights. Do you wonder why it's on my mind like the tears I cry? This traffic light is the reason why I'm leaving.
Some claim that it's hereditary, and since you left the belly, you were cleansed into a life that you were meant to bury. Lay your body with the victims in the cemetery of past addicts in your family dead already. Our neighbors hear the screams. Addiction is a thief, robbing my family of its dignity. It supersedes what we can be, shattering dreams, falling like the leaves off my deceased family tree. Problem isn't original, or the label is criminal, as a stereotypical vision that's always cynical of addicts like my father, living so bitter, so afraid to contemplate his fate, waiting for a miracle. My mom's sobbing and falling, asking why, wishing she could have just fallen for a different guy. Heavy tears hung out to dry, but I'm the man of the house, I'm not allowed to cry.
Ooh, can I help myself? I wanna be free to help myself. And you've been more beside. Is this my heaven? Oh, please, can I help myself? Everything is passing by like traffic light. Do you wonder why it's on my mind like the tears I cry? This traffic light is the reason why I'm leaving.
Is there a father, a son, or a Holy Ghost? My mother's crying cause she's dying from an overdose. I stopped relying on the lies it took us to hope. Why do we always hurt the ones that we love the most?
Who harms me now inside myself? Who harms me now inside myself? Who harms me now inside myself? Who harms me now inside myself?
Found heroin, its presence is settling in. It feels warm, comforting like a next of kin. Done wondering, shall I confess my sins? One life ends and the death of our next begins.
Everything is passing by like traffic light. Do you wonder why it's on my mind like the tears I cry? This traffic light is the reason why I'm leaving. Moving like the hands of time. This traffic light is passing by. You're the sin you can't deny. This traffic light, this traffic light.
educate our children to take their place in the economies of the 21st century. How do we do that, given that we can't anticipate what the economy will look like at the end of next week? Every country on Earth is trying to figure out how do we educate our children so they have a sense of cultural identity and so that we can pass on the cultural genes of our communities while being part of the process of globalization. How do we square that circle?
You call that radio?
Makes coherent sense.
I should call that radio TV. We're live with Stevie Creed, aka the Brooklyn Scotsman, and we've got lots of nice comments coming in about that tune, man. Brilliant tune. Love the documentary and love hearing the story, Stevie, from Colonel Mustard himself, John McAlinden.
Legends. Thank you.
We've got Alan Morrison saying liking this a lot. Mikey saying quality track, man.
Thank you.
And what was that? Soapy late to the party. What video was that? I missed. That was Traffic Life by Stevie Creed. Absolutely amazing, and just great vocals on it. Very emotional. Well produced, man, as well. And yeah, man, you've definitely carved out your own sound. It doesn't sound like anything anyone else is doing in Scotland, anyway.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I guess I started off on it when in the beginning doing like grime from about 12 to 19. I was really into grime because there was, if you remember that great era when it wasn't as big as it is now, but you had like Akala, Lethal B, Dizzy, Kano, Kalashnikov, all these guys. So I was like looking up to them so much, and I think a lot of my style in the beginning was influenced by them. But then when I went to the States, I was doing all these lyrics really sort of fast and lyrical, and they really liked it, but they were like, just maybe slow down a little bit, enunciate your words and stuff. So on that track, I'm quite slow on it and it's quite deliberate, but it's interesting how that transcended more than a lot of the other stuff sometimes when you do it faster. But it just depends. If you can vary it up, I think I just want people to listen to what I'm saying. But there is that fear sometimes in Scotland of maybe doing it slower and maybe not being accepted because it has that stigma attached to it, doesn't it? Like it's got that, but I've never really changed it.
It's a very interesting point as well, and it's something I'm recording the Jackal Trades album just now, and I'm aware right now that I'm doing it. I'm doing songs that are too. I can feel myself. I'm saying this is too fast. I'm doing too many syllables, and I think it just comes down to the fact that you're trying to prove yourself as an MC that you can do lots of wordplay and stuff like that, just to prove that you've got the skill to do it. But it's a definite issue with sometimes a song gets lost, and at the end of the day, we should be making songs. And it's absolutely nothing wrong with doing a freestyle and flexing a bit on a track. But I think you're bang on, man. At the end of the day, the song should come first. People should be able to hear all the words. And then I think you can use a fast bit, like it's. I know that you've done it in quite a few of your tunes where you can speed it up for a bit, and I think it has more emphasis when you do keep it slow, and then you speed it up for a certain bit. I think that's the right way. Just getting the balance right, I think, it can be quite tricky. But
it's good. It depends what people want from you as well. Sometimes you think, oh, people want this, they want that. Like you say when all the first years of rapping, it was always, I'm going to rap about how amazing I am at rapping and how much better I'm at rapping than you, and my bars are so amazing. And then that was when I went to America, and I was like, wait a minute, I've got so much to write about, like the building skyscraper, all this stuff and everything that was going on. So there's a place and a time for it. I don't think there's anything wrong with flexing what you can do, but it just depends also what you're trying to do with the song. And it's good that you can do that.
Also, when you're going slower as well, I think maybe, on one hand, it's a bit of bravado by rapping fast multi-syllabics and stuff, but there's another side of it where I think it's also a bit of fear involved, because when you rap slow, your lyrics are there for all to see. There's no hiding place. You can't hide behind technique. It's all about the words and the heart behind it. So I think that could be another reason that maybe people are scared to kind of put their life out there or put their heart out there like that.
Do you find that live as well? Like sometimes, well, when people do it live, a lot of time they get speed up and just really fast because it's that maybe the nerves or the energy, but also, do you think it's sometimes maybe like an insecurity because we're worried about the Scottish accent and it's like, well, maybe this will cover it up. You know, sometimes a lot of people that don't like their accent will be so good lyricists because it kind of covers up that insecurity of just having that slow swag. Because you hear some of the Americans and they just go so slow. But it depends, again, what people want from you. And I need to remember that as well. It's what people want from you. And I was surprised with Traffic Life, it's the one that resonated the most, probably because of what's in it. But maybe it is also just because of the accent that they can really understand it. So it's something I need to think about as well, I guess, moving forward.
I think so. I mean, it's not. I mean, we always talk about the Scottish accent, and we get told by mainly, I would say, English media. We have the same problems with Scottish media, but English media tends to say, that they can't understand the accent and stuff like that. But it's not primarily a Scottish issue. I think that hip hop across the boards got the problem with with people trying to fit in multiple punchlines and be very clever and very fast and doing it. And I mean, if my favorite MCs that do that, there's no way that I'm taking in everything they're saying in the first sitting. A good MC is going to take multiple repeat listens to understand what's really going on there. So I think that it's certainly not unique to Scotland. I think that England, American rappers as well, sometimes just do too much, and you miss a lot of what's going on. So I think we could all learn from slowing it down a wee bit. By all means, go for it to prove that you can do it. But sometimes it becomes just a rap competition rather than a song. And at the end of the day, it's great songs that we remember most. Do you know what I mean? We've got Petra's in the house. She says enjoying the chat. Whistling in the dark. Stu's in the house as well. And let's just go into the accent briefly, because I would imagine that when you went to New York, when you went to Brooklyn, you would have had to have slowed down your accent, because I think everyone who's Scottish and goes abroad has to do that. Did people understand what you're talking about when you first touched down?
Yeah, it's funny. I need to learn to slow down even over here sometimes. I mean, you're very hyper as well, but I'm like that sometimes. So I've tried to slow it down. And with acting, you learn that, because with acting, when I was doing the theatre and stuff, the director was like, I need to get you in a room and just sit you down for like an hour before I can even talk to you, because you're just so hyper. And I think it's a good lesson. Sometimes we could all learn from that, just slow down a little bit sometimes. But I think even Gail Porter was struggling with me, because it's the first time she spoke to a Scottish person in a while, and obviously I was excited to speak to Gail Porter. It was great. Yeah, I watched it. It's great, mate. Yeah,
they're just talking at a million miles an hour. And I mean, the same thing happens even when you get used to slowing it down. If you're living in a different country, you pronounce words better, you slow it down, and then you have a couple of beers with a Scottish guy or an Irish guy or something, and it just goes right back up to 100 miles an hour. I remember I had a South African flatmate when I was living abroad, and at one point I bumped into a boy for Fife in a Celtic top, and we just had a wee chat. And then my flatmate's like, what language were you speaking? Well, he wasn't taking the piss. He thought we were talking Gaelic or something, but it was just a West Coast guy and a Fife guy having a wee chat about the football.
Yeah, it's like that. But that's good. I mean, it's like a secret code sometimes when you dip into that. But I think you're probably right. When I went over there, I was conscious of that, because, I mean, I was conscious of it before I went out there, because I guess, you're around your mates like, all right, mate, I need ball, and it's like everyone can understand you. But I thought going out there, I did want people to understand me. So I knew initially that, I guess there was the odd occasion where they'd be like, sorry, what did you say? But most of the time they could understand me, because I was probably very aware of the Scottish accent, trying to just pronounce it. But I was amazed at how much they loved it, and it was like a superpower out there. So they were like, do not lose your accent, like, and that's what I was amazed at, even with the rapping thing, because sometimes in Scotland, when I was a wee kid, it's all right, but you're Scottish, you can't do that when you're Scottish and stuff. But when you're out there, they're like, wow, that's amazing, that separates you, you're different. So I was really overwhelmed with that, and it was really eye-opening to me.
It seems to be a problem with the gatekeepers. In order to get in any kind of international, well, a national audience on the radio or something, the people that are deciding it are like, no, that's too colloquial, that's too, people won't understand what they're saying. But when you speak to real hip hop heads that actually respect the music, they're not going to be caring about, they're going to go, is that a good beat? Is this guy got lyrics? Has he got delivery? And they might not pick up on everything, but if it's good enough, they'll repeat it back. We had to learn American slang that way. When Dizzy Rascal came out, we had to learn, London slang and stuff like that as well. And I suppose, another point of that is it's always been very confusing for me is that, when they put call centres, they usually pick Scotland, probably because it's cheaper to pay people. But the Scottish accent has been proven in tests to be trustworthy, likeable, probably second only to the Irish accent. So people do like the Scottish accent. They like it in comedy. So many great Scottish comedians, they love it in poetry. Always so many famous Scottish poets. But yet, for some weird reason, when you put a pure banger of a beat behind the words, then people freak out and go, oh, you can't do that. And we're dealing with the Scottish cringe, and it's just, I think it's just the lack of Scottish representation on, the British television that we all grew up in, that a Scottish person is a particular type of person who wouldn't rap.
Yeah, do you think it's a case of the gatekeepers are kind of blocking that and not letting you in? Like, do you think the song that is to transcend Scottish hip hop, for example, that mainstream song where you could play it at weddings, the radio, anywhere in the world, and it's that sort of thing you could hear in supermarkets, do you think that song's been made already and it's just the gatekeepers have not allowed that in, or do you think that song's still to be made, or the artist has been given the platform?
I think it's a bit of both. It's obviously it's hard to. I couldn't really sit here and say I think that those songs have been made because I've got no evidence to back that up. But yeah, I think that there has been a few songs out there from certain artists. I think I think Stanley Odd, for example, I don't see. He speaks so clearly and well that it's. I don't see any reason, and the music is quite accessible for everyone. I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be getting regular airplay on Radio 1. Maybe Loki. I know he's got an album he's been working on for a while, and I've heard some of the tracks in that. Maybe because he's got fame through other ways with these books and these TV shows. Maybe he could get into that national airplay. And
he might get a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's just so many up and coming guys that are doing great stuff. You've got like Shogun, McCroy, Sherlock, and all that as well. I think that they are making bangers that could happen. So I think it's just a case of once one gets through, then I think that more could. But I mean, it's not about it's not about what mainstream success anyway. It's just like it just seems to be that the people in radio are just like they knock it back straight away rather than just letting someone. What would happen if somebody like any of those guys mentioned or yourself was just to get some proper radio play rotation on a mainstream channel? Like it would the reason people buy the music in the charts is because they're force fed it every day on the radio, but nobody's ever had that chance. I mean, there's a few BBC introducing I know that Vixen Sound's doing a great job promoting hip hop, but once again that's still to a Scottish audience. So it just needs to we do need that one, but I think as soon as that one happens, then it will open things up. And what is great to see, all the young guys coming up now are incredibly talented for their age, and they don't seem to have been fighting with that Scottish cringe idea that I think a lot of us have been. It maybe took us longer to get into it because we're worried about what people think. I think it's quite cool now and quite normal for a kid in the schemes to be a rapper now, which was a lot more a difficult thing when I was growing up anyway, for sure. But but I think it's all positive. And at the end of the day, fuck the mainstream anyway. We can still keep it underground, but it would just be good if there could be a platform there where an underground rapper could be making enough money to pay the bills by touring and doing what they do so well. And hopefully that comes with collaborating with other underground artists from down south and across the pond as well. Because England went through all this stuff years ago as well. It's the same thing. But now, obviously, they've got international superstars now. So, yeah, man, I'm positive about it. I think the time will come, no doubt about it.
There's so much talent, so much talent in Scotland.
On that point, actually, what rappers are you into? from Scotland?
I mean, everyone you mentioned, I think everyone you mentioned there, and like, I mean, obviously Shogun's had that. I've never seen a video go so viral like that. I remember seeing that, and it was everywhere. Yeah, so I mean, that's good, and you know, he's doing great things, and like you say, there's so many, McCroy and Loki and Stanley Odd, all these people that you mentioned, and there's so many. Like for me, obviously, because I was away. Like sometimes when I come back, I'm trying to keep up to date with everything that's going on, and there's so many coming through and stuff like that. So I think it's
I mean,
good.
even the new guys that aren't even the finished article yet, the guys that are starting out are actually really good already. Do you know, it's normally takes. It seems like there's a shorter span that people are taking to get good at it. So it's exciting, man. What on the subject of collaboration with the. Have you been collaborating? Because I know that when you're over in America and you're doing stuff, what's the collaboration like? Been like going across the pond?
It's been good, yeah. I mean, I've got my album coming out in August, September time this year, so that's got so many people from America on it because when I'm out there, I collaborate with a lot of people. So I've got this track I just put out as well, Hard to Believe, with a Brownsville rapper and a guy from Southside Jamaica, Queens. And it's quite an interesting story. I used to live in a crack den in Flatbush, so I was living in a crack den on this place called The Junction. And when I stayed there, he came all the way from Southside Jamaica, Queens, with his friend who were like really good rappers called So Dope Rebels. And these guys literally, they'd have no home. They just sleep on the floors, wake up and record every day. So they were really good. And they were in, when I was living in this place, I had nothing. And he was sleeping on the floor and he was homeless. And then when I was out shooting the documentary, I went to do this video, a music video. This guy knew someone with a jacuzzi in like another part of Brooklyn, which was Greenpoint, which is a really nice area of Brooklyn. And I walked in, and then this guy looked familiar, but I didn't really know, you know, who it was or where I saw his face. I thought I'd seen his face from on TV or something. Did the whole video shoot in a jacuzzi and all that. And then I came home and I sent him a message. I said, "Oh, thanks for letting me use in your place. Do you know this guy called Sun Zeus? He looks like you. He used to hang around my bit when I stayed on the Junction." He said, "Oh, that's me." Yeah. And then I was like, "What?" And then this was all like in New York, 9 million people. I'm shooting this documentary and I bump into this guy. And then he was like, "You know what? I recognized your face, but I didn't want to say anything because," and I said the same to him because we came so far from that point. I was like, there's no way from where we were, he's homeless, I'm pretty much homeless, destitute, I had no handle, like the crackhead stole my window, all this stuff. And then we're in that place, and then you jump like 5 years ahead, 5 years ahead, 4 years ahead, and then he's got a jacuzzi in his place, and I'm going in with a BBC film crew documentary. And he was just like, this is just freaking me out. I said, we need to do a track. I was like, I'm coming over. I went over and we filmed a little bit more for the documentary. We just did a track there and then, and it's produced from a guy from Brownsville who toured with Wu-Tang and all that. But moments like that, and the track's called Hard to Believe because it's just so hard to believe. We both recognized each other, but we couldn't believe we were the same person because we're like, this is so much has happened. And it was weird because the director for the documentary, Gary Torrance, when I came back and texted this guy and said, you know how we were saying we recognise this guy, and he thought he'd seen him on The Wire or something because he's an actor too. I said, we recognise him from my archive footage that they have of me on Flatbush Junction years ago with me and him rapping with a group of other people. And he was like, fuck, he did. And then he looked at it and he's like, that's him, that's the same guy. So just stuff like that is crazy, you know, and it's meant to be. It's like some spiritual stuff. So that track,
I think it's an amazing part of the documentary, man, and that people can look forward to because you do actually see it happening in real time. But I think it's a good time to just play that tune, man, because I think everyone wants to hear it. I want to hear it. So it's a new single. It's out now. Spotify's the best place for it, I believe.
Yeah, there'll be a video coming soon. I'm trying to get out in the snow to shoot my verse somewhere, just stick a video together, you know, in the weather.
It's save up snowballs, put them in your freezer, and then sell them to the summer people because summer people want winter water. Is what we learned earlier on today. So this is hard to believe. Out now.
Scotland and New York, the type of shit that we on could last a couple eons. Here to bring the light, oh yeah, I'm bagging up the neon, bagging up the neon. Let the fan, but then I made the right, what could you be wrong? For sleeping on the train and trapping just to make a new song. Bag of Stella at the party, then we get the groove on. Smash it, told me spend the night, I had to be gone. Jurassic, pussy feeling like the new classic. I blasted, got my log in without the password. The shit ain't been the same since I took the tab of acid. Got me like, what happens to a dream deferred? Them nightmares reoccur. The slight fears reassured that anything you wanna do is light years premature. Life could be a bitch, but you ain't got a bitch to her. I manifested, you just imagine. This shit was destined, you can't imagine. This ain't for looks, no, this ain't a pageant. Me and Stevie Creed is lyrical assassins. Yeah, it's lyrical assassins.
Take a walk in my shoes as I stroll through the blocks. AirPods on blast while I let the beat knock. Hip hop won't stop. Started with my tape pop. Now I'm in this thing forever. Catch your haters at the top. Take a walk in my shoes as I stroll through the blocks. AirPods on blast while I let the beat knock. Hip hop won't stop. Started with my tape pop. Now I'm in this thing forever. Catch your haters at the top.
Stress levels are treble, walking ethical rules. Clothes disheveled, so tremble like a step with the crows. Close ball was a salesman that saw me endorse. Every level has a devil, they don't go to your shows. Talking about the people who never see the sequel. See, having a dream is evil, raining on magazebo. The Beatles ego pushing seeds like a kilo into ignorant people, throwing me off like a kilo. Extra terrestrial, exceptional, fluorescent glow. The next to blow, you're a vegan, well I'm the vegetable. Eat me, give me head and shoulders, seeing like a telescope. The feeling you're believing, releasing you, it's a chemical. Luring this family, holding me down like gravity, no salary, broken stove, gassing me, roaches harassing me, belly's hungry and asking me in this catastrophe. Am I gonna make it? Is this dream just a fantasy?
Take a walk in my shoes as I stroll through the blocks. AirPods on blast while I let the beat knock. Hip hop won't stop. Started with my tape pop. Now I'm in this thing forever. Catch your haters at the top. Take a walk in my shoes as I stroll through the blocks. AirPods on blast while I let the beat knock. Hip hop won't stop. Started with my tape pop. Now I'm in this thing forever. Catch your haters at the top.
Hey yo, I rose from the ashes like the phoenix. I'm the meanest, cold hard and cold stairs, giving chills. I really mean it. Can't walk in my shoe cause I stay on some fly kicks. Can't even be in my shadow. The sun stay in the flicks. I come from the projects, was raised the gladiator. See all types of things like piss in the elevators, red top, blue top, even green in the staircase. Fiends shooting on the roof just to reach that deep space. See close friends get shot, their bodies in the park. Shoot a document on me, come and take this long walk. Show you the rag, the riches, food right off the dishes. Bon appetit, I'm the chef, stay in the kitchen. No one to somebody, turn nothing into something. I'm the best, leave my own temptation like David Ruffin. If you see what I see, believe what I dream. Yeah, I'm still a star artist, you bleed, then I feed.
Take a walk in my shoes as I stroll through the blocks. AirPods on blast while I let the beat knock. Hip hop won't stop. Started with my tape pop. Now I'm in this thing forever. Catch your haters at the top. Take a walk in my shoes as I stroll through the blocks. AirPods on blast while I let the beat knock. Hip hop won't stop. Started with my tape pop. Now I'm in this thing forever. Catch your haters at the top.
Do you want weirdo or do you want itchy?
If you don't really know what's going on, there's a show that also doesn't know what's going on. Call that radio TV. You call that radio. Call that radio TV. You call that radio TV.
Absolute banger of a track. Hard to believe. It's to get that, go just look up Stevie Creed on Spotify. That's also the name for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff. Bernie's saying, wow, hard to believe it's a class track, by the way. Tune and a half, says John McAlinden. Watch out for
Thank you.
Astronaut. It's whistling in the dark. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man, absolute banger of a track. And it's definitely one of the best bits of the documentary. Another bit that I was just thinking about when I was listening to it was when your pal who was helping to organise the gig, you kind of pissed him off a little bit by deciding to go to Atlanta, and you're out at a club, and then a shooting starts happening.
Yeah, it tends to happen around me, but I've seen that before. But that was mad. We went out to Atlanta just for a few days. I was out there years ago and I was performing in Atlanta, and I made friends with this guy called Ron Dew, and Ron Dew's like one of the biggest nightlife promoters out there. He kind of knows everyone. And we went out there, I did his radio show, and then he says, I'm going to get you in the biggest nightclub in Atlanta, the most famous nightclub in Atlanta, and I'm going to get you in the VIP and all that with the D-boys and all the basketball players and celebrities and stuff. So we walked in, I had like my sporring on, put this sporring on, because you know what, like for me, Doug brought it out and he's like, that looks cool. And I was like, you know what, it does. And some people maybe go like, oh, that's a gimmick. But I wear it because I want to wear it. I keep my Johnnies in there. It's really handy, you know. So I went in and all the girls were stroking it and stuff when I went in the club. So I was like, I'm continuing to wear this when I can. So I walked in with my sporran, and then we were in the VIP, and Gary, the director, he was following us about. We're walking up to the DJ, shouting my name out and all this stuff. And it was absolutely rammed. It was a Saturday night. And then we're on top of tables, we're partying, and people are throwing money, pouring Hennessy bottles out, because you've got like all the celebrities, all the drug dealers, everyone with all the money. And Atlanta is a really huge, well, it's got a huge culture of nightlife. And the BMF family, they were like the biggest cocaine sort of distributors in that area years ago. They put a lot of money into hip hop. So that was really the nucleus for cocaine in America, but they started funding all the rappers. So then Atlanta became like this party lifestyle, and it's like a really luxurious sort of lifestyle. So we were in the VIP with all these people, all my friends, and then we had meeting all these people and stuff like that. And we're having a great night. I was a bit tipsy. I was just on straight vodka because I don't drink that much, but I was like, I'll just have straight vodka just to kind of get me a little bit.
Why? If you don't drink that much, why straight vodka?
It's just straight to the point, you know. I don't like to mess about, and it's also a pride thing, you know. There was other video shoots when I had the bottles of vodka. I'm from Scotland, mate, you know, all this stuff. And being on radios, there's been a radio station I went on, and they had whiskey, and they were all passing it around. I was like, oh, give me that. And I was getting, because they ask you questions and you drink. It's just a pride thing, you know. It's just stupid. But I was in there and I was having a good time and all that. And we were partying all night on top of the tables and stuff. And the director was getting all this great footage. And then the house lights got turned on. And then when the house lights got turned on, everyone was still partying. You know, it's like that. Everyone's still wanting to go on top of the tables. Then someone gets bottled. Then a fight breaks out. Women are getting dragged along the ground as these two gangs start fighting. And that went on for a long time. In the documentary, it only shows a tiny bit, but they were fighting for ages. So then...
Yeah, well, you do see that at one point. There's a guy who's just, he's really funny in it, and he's just like, that's fine, nobody got hurt. And you get another gun going off, and then it's like, shit, let's just get out of here.
Yeah, that was Ron Dew, the promoter, who was really taking us all these places. And I had my friend Q, who was kind of like chaperoning Gary, the director. And Gary was having a great time as well, but he was getting all this great footage. And I have to commend him for this, right? He was like shouting at Gary, come on, we need to go, we need to get out of here, because he knew, although they were all fighting, that something was maybe going to happen. And I was just like chilling and all that, watching all this stuff unfold, but Gary was in filming it all. So Q's like, come on, Gary, come on. And Gary's like, nope, I'm going straight back. And he went straight back into the action, starts filming it and all that. And then we're just about to leave, and we're in the club and stuff. And like you say, it's that moment when he's saying, yeah, it's all right, just a little bit tussling, no one got hurt.
A little bit of handbags at dawn.
Yeah, all that typical stuff in a club. And then gunshots start going off and stuff and all that. So it was just crazy. But I think, you know, you can never predict these things, but it happens a lot. I've been in Brooklyn, even I was in the middle of shootouts and all this stuff. But in Atlanta, the gun culture is even more prevalent than New York. So it happens, but it's
what
just
about robberies? You matter of factly said earlier on, you know, I got robbed a few times. What was that? What was that about?
Just, well, the area I lived in was, they'd have a lot of stick-up artists, but to be honest, the people robbing you were a little bit younger. It wasn't the older ones, it was the younger ones trying to prove themselves. So, I mean, even when I was a teenager, I got robbed in a corner store. You know, this guy wanted money. I was trying to get an Arizona tea. This was when I was really had nothing. I had no money, and I was getting my Arizona tea. It's like 99 cents. I was really happy. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. This guy was just wanting money for the bus. Or he's like, yo, give me some money. And I was like, no. And he's like, give me your money. And I was like, I don't have anything. And he just put a gun to me. And I was like, I'd already been robbed a lot at that point, but I was like, here, take it. Like, I had nothing, just gave him it. And then another time I got robbed, these guys coming out the projects, you know, and it was just, I had like this phone, and it was like, it was so shit. Like, when I gave it to them, you could tell them looking like they felt sorry for me. It was that bad, but it isn't. There's nothing cool about it. It is scary. It's terrifying, and I was all tough when I went out there. Like, oh yeah, you know, I'm a boxer. I can fight and all this stuff. And it's my friends are like, Stevie, nobody's boxing. Like, nobody's gonna box you, mate. Like, nobody's gonna box you and stuff. So I used to hear, I thought cars backfiring when I was in the Galaxy Motel, and it was gunshots going off. And then when I was, my friends Cass, who became like family to me, they were in the documentary also, they found me my first place to stay. And it was just off the junction in Flatbush on Foster Avenue. And I moved into this basement apartment, had like this lovely Haitian lady, an older lady staying above me, and she was kind of looking after me and taking care of me, gave me like a chair and stuff like that. But on my first day of moving in, 2 people got murdered on my doorstep. And I went out for milk, came back, there was a car, someone shot hanging out the car and someone in front of the car. And that was really terrifying, because I was like, this is meant to be a safer neighborhood, although there was Bloods and Crips. It was quite scary. But the moment it really hit me was I called Cass, and I was like, you know, 2 people just got murdered like on my doorstep, and I was a bit like obviously scared and stuff like that. And he was just like, oh, for real? And he's like, they dead? I was like, yeah, they're dead. He's like, so what you doing this weekend, man? It was like, and that was when it was like, whoa, it's an everyday occurrence there. It's nothing new. And then the really sad thing was when you hear someone screaming, whether it was his sister or mother. I just heard this lady screaming. It was a horrible thing, and I always remember that. And then the really eerie thing was about an hour later, it was all cleared up as if nothing ever happened, you know, and it was like just moved on to the next thing. And that really hit me, because that was, well, I was 19, I was in this basement, and it really hit me and made me think about things a lot differently. And then I saw more things over the years out there, but that first one was really horrible. And I don't know, it's the culture out there, but to me it's more in Scotland where I stayed. There was a shooting near where I stayed, and it was horrific, but it was quite a big thing. There was a lot of publicity, there was a lot of talk about it, whereas over there it's just another one. It just goes on and on and on. So in a way, I've just finished doing a book, and in the book it's like the person I'm working with on it, we were saying there's a lot of violence and drugs in it, but that's not the story. The story is really about the people that helped me and guided me and got me to this point. But the violence, if you put too much in it, you can actually get desensitized to it as an audience member and when you're in it. Because I saw a lot of stuff out there, but as it kept going on and on and on, and yourself, you kind of get a little bit desensitized to it. Although it's still bad, nothing beats that first time. But it's just, I don't know, it's a weird thing. It's just, and I guess now with this corona thing, you're thinking about it, all these people are passing away, and it's horrific. But when you have an intimate connection with someone, that's someone's, you know, son or someone's brother, and it's just, I don't know.
It's very true. I mean, I remember when the virus first broke out, and it was the news was very somber about what was going on in Italy and Spain. I think they were hitting 600 deaths or something, 500, 600, and the tone was very somber. Like, well, we're glad we're not there. At least I think at that point Britain was only, you know, it was double digits or something, maybe 10 or 12 or something like that. And then the news, it started changing that. It's now like, you know, just about a week ago we had like over 1,000 a day in the UK, and it's been happening pretty much constantly all year. And I suppose that I think the human brain can only take on so much information, and then it does just sort of read like numbers rather than, and it's absolutely sad, man. I think it's just because we can't get our head around. I think it's something in the brain that sort of our empathy sensors have just got it hits a point where you can't actually mourn for every single person when it's 1,000 people a day. But it's just weird, man, and it's yeah, I could totally see why, you know, you'd be scarred, and then eventually you've just got to get on with it in order to function on a day-to-day basis. I suppose you've just got to sort of find a way around it. I just also want to ask, man, what is it like? Because it's such a crazy story, and like just thinking about that family that took you under their wing and stuff, legends who have just obviously seen you and went, this guy maybe needs a wee bit of help here and stuff like that. And that's beautiful to see there was people out there just like looking out for you, which is amazing. But what was it like when you came back to Scotland and you started telling people these stories? Were like people just going, "Aye, right," kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I think, well, it's I guess some people, but to be honest, I never really in the beginning. I never really told a lot of people what went on. I mean, it was years and years of stuff that went on. But then I did a theatre show recently, and that's kind of goes into it a lot more at the Fringe. I did all those shows, and with the documentary. But even the documentary, and they did a really good job with it. I thought it was great. But the book I've got 15 chapters, and the documentary is like half a chapter. So there's 14 and a half chapters of stuff that's not covered. But obviously the documentary was more in the present, and he was the Gary, the director, did an amazing job of putting that together, because he was really just following me about for a few weeks before the whole world turned upside down. That was just a few weeks with me going out to America and in Edinburgh. But if I was to sit here and tell you, hi, I met you in a bar, and I said, oh, Mark, yeah, I was in Atlanta, you know, and I was in the VIP and the biggest nightclub in Atlanta with all the drug dealers and celebrities, and then gunshots started going off, people were getting bottled, and a BBC film crew was filming me for a documentary about my life. You would be like, fuck off, mate. So, where'd that go? You know?
It's good that the BBC were filming you, because it does really help corroborate everything that you're saying, because it is such a crazy story, and it's kind of proof that, you know, if fiction... reality can be stranger than fiction. I'm going to just play a little clip. I'll probably get in trouble from the copyright robots for playing it, but because I know that there's people tuned in that are really enjoying it. We've got loving this chat, so many amazing stories. Says James, how you doing, James? Ali's saying, James. I like this guy's honesty. Alan's saying, this is a brilliant interview again. Really glad I tuned into this tonight. And I've got a question for Ben. I'll ask you that in a little second. One way, I was just going to play the clip here because it's just really well shot, and just to give people a little flavour. It's not available online just now, but it will definitely be back, and I'm sure it'll probably get even a bigger platform next time as well, because it was on BBC Scotland. Is that right?
Yeah, and they put it out like the peak of all that madness last year, but they broadcast it 3 times, which is pretty good, I think, since they put it out in June. So they broadcast it 3 times, put it on iPlayer. But I think they put it on iPlayer for 4 weeks or something, and then or 29 days. But hopefully it comes back, and you know, it would be good. People keep asking about it, so it's a good sign.
Well, that's a good sign, and you know, I think that a lot of these things that, you know, I think that the local stations, I don't really know how it works, but in my head, the way it works is that local stations, if they get something that goes quite well, and people are asking for it, then they can maybe present it to the national station. Because it is something I think everyone can relate to. It's similarities as well to, you know, we had Brains McLeod from Syllable and Brains on as well, and I think that even though it's a Scottish story, it's everyone can relate to it. It's someone going from somewhere else and going into somewhere else. It's been done, you know, lots of the greatest films and stories ever told are about that, and there's just something really hip hop about it as well, because it's coming from that.
That's a great story. Gavin, like he's a good guy. He actually, I was asking him for some advice about something, and he watched the documentary. He's a really good guy. Because, you know, people, they don't have to give you their time, but he did, and I think their stories, again, it's a really good story. And it's weird how they had to kind of put on that accent to get in there, and it was a different time again. It was before, way before I went out and did all my thing. But it's weird. I knew keeping my accent would help me out there, whereas the music industry was so different. And it's still, I mean, I still get, when the documentary went out, people going, oh, it's like the Proclaimers, shite, you're fucking shite, all this stuff. So back then I could only imagine, but it is, you're right.
It's interesting as well. What's quite interesting is that the difference between your story and their story is that they came up against a gatekeeper who laughed at them for having a Scottish accent, while you were actually in the streets of Brooklyn and people were going, here, this accent's different, this is cool, you should keep that shit. You know, so it's, but let's just watch a little clip of the film. It's just the trailer for it, to give people a little flavour and that haven't seen it before.
Saw that skyline, it was all about.
Oh, go back. Stop.
When I first saw that skyline, it was all about making it and getting respect for what you're doing, getting accepted. I'm Stevie. Nearly 10 years ago, when I was still a teenager, I got on a plane alone to New York City to chase my dreams. I'm standing up in this basement, and I was like, it's my time to shine. Let's go Vanilla Boy, let's go Milk Bread, let's show them what you're about.
When he started spitting, oh man, his voice, his accent, sound lit.
Struggle to be compatible when my actions are radical, supernatural, animal, rubber dope.
He's one of us.
I've been told since I was a kid that Scottish people can't rap. This is my life. Work during the day, plug away at the music and shows at night. I feel like it's that time in my life when I need to take that leap. I think I'm going to go back to America.
What's up, bro?
How are you, bro? You all right?
So we got album,
music video, show. Get all the acts together, promote it.
Not dead, but digging the dirt. BKS, she's digging my shirt. I'm digging these women that twerk.
I'm going back to New York to continue the journey I started. With help from my old friends, I'll get closer to realising my dream of taking over the world with my music. I'll make some new friends too and have some fun along the way. Come up against some conflict and maybe even danger.
It's all part of the culture.
An American psychiatrist calls it audio stimulation.
You call that radio?
Yeah, amazing stuff. And yeah, copyright robots will probably give us into trouble for that, which is weird because it's been happening when I've been playing trailers for stuff, which makes no sense to me because surely it's in everyone's interest that, you know, I promote the thing, but they don't like it sometimes.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be all right with it. I think if they do the whole thing, because someone that leaked the whole documentary on YouTube, and then there's
yeah,
putting it on Pirate Bay and all that, but it was actually someone just rendered the whole thing from iPlayer and put it up. So you're all right. Hopefully you'll be good.
Aye, well, you'd think so. Yeah,
maybe not.
It's good promo, but they can be quite funny with it. Who cares anyway? I think it's important for people just to kind of get a wee glimpse of what it is we're talking about. Got some comments coming in. Hi, Lou's in the house. She says, Goose managed to tune in. Been looking forward to this one. Absolutely, Lou. You need to go back to the start and watch this one. Bernie says, I agree. This documentary is a bigger release. And when is the book coming out? When is it coming out? Do you have a date in mind?
Yeah, I think it'll be towards the end of this year, hopefully. It just really depends. I mean, probably like yourself, based on shows and stuff, what I'll be doing this year with the coronavirus. But it's good. I was just kind of working on the edit for it and stuff, and it's because there's a lot of legal things as well, especially if you're naming people. Like I got ripped off by someone and, you know, had their name in it and stuff. So it's all these little things you've got to kind of iron out before you put it out there. But it's good. I've got someone helping me with that. So I think it'll be hopefully towards the end of this year that it'll come out.
You're just sort of floating it to publishers and stuff just now?
Yeah, well, I think, to be honest, I think I'll probably self-publish it. Again, that's something Gavin was helping me with advice for, and he did very well with his book. And I've got somebody that's going to publish books before, and I think I got approached to do it when I was doing the theatre show. Someone approached me to do a book about the Brooklyn Scotsman journey and all the stuff that happened. So that he's actually published books for like Gordon Brown and Andy Cameron, people in the mafia and stuff. So I think it'll be more of a self-published thing through him and his company. But I don't know if we'll go down the publisher route, and I don't know if it would be. I don't know how that works, to be honest. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the beauty of things that these days you can just self-publish and self-release as well. Because we're looking a wee bit into that recently. Minerva Wakes has just got a book coming out as part of the album and an art project, kind of like a thing. So I've been kind of sort of looking at that a little bit myself, and I think she has been able to get some help with it. But it's like it's still technically self-published, but working with someone who has experience publishing. And it's just the same way, man. I think as long as you've got someone else that's sort of been there before and knows about a few of the pitfalls, then you'll be absolutely fine. You know, the internet's changed everything. We can directly speak to people and I know that there'll be lots of people out there that will be wanting to support that. But with regards to the theatre show, man, that's another part of the documentary, because obviously it goes through to the fact that you are putting in the graft, man. You are a very motivated man. You are working at Slater's during the day. You're playing 2 shows at the Fringe. You're sleeping in your car, and then you're getting up and doing it all over again, man. And you know, we don't play the Fringe so much, man. I mean, I've done a few spoken word bits. I've been guesting other people's shows. In my band, we usually play one big gig a year. Most recent, last couple of years, it was Stramash, which also appears in the documentary as well, which is always a good night.
Yeah, it's good.
During the Fringe, it's crazy, man. But I mean, I get exhausted just walking about. I mean, maybe for like, you know, I maybe go for like a few days, twice during the month, and I try and cram as much as I can in performance-wise and seeing other shows and stuff like that. But man, it's such an exhausting place for me, just the busyness of it all. And so to do that, so can you tell us a little bit more of the theatre show? Because I think, if I'm right in saying, you had the theatre show happening earlier on, and then you would do a big like a band show at night. For Stramash, it was more kind of sort of straightforward gig.
Yeah, that's right. So the theatre show started in 2018. So actually, the way that it came about, the Fringe is quite difficult to get involved in without, you know, money and stuff. So I was quite lucky because I was working in Slater's, and I was serving people and all that. And then I met a director called Liam Rudden. He's an award-winning director, and he was talking to me about acting because he'd seen some of my music videos. I did this boxing thing in America, so he was like seeing me and he says, "Oh, maybe you could do some acting." And then we had a chat, and then he started asking me about my story and stuff. And he said, "You know, you could do a show, like," and I said, "Well, I'd love to, but don't have a script." And I said, "Well, why don't you write something?" So then I wrote a script for it, and then he was the person that put me on to someone, and then I negotiated a deal to get a venue, and we did like a split of, and they took a chance on me, which is very rare nowadays to happen. So I'm very fortunate that they did, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. But that was in 2018, so I did the Fringe, and that was with Stuart Gentleman, who you know, actually, he was my guitarist at the time, and Jamie Lee, and a drummer, Simon Drummond. But it was basically a hip-hop musical sort of stage show theatre with acting, and I was boxing in it, and I was performing as well. And it was about my life and my journey in Brooklyn. So the first year I did 23 shows back to back, and then the following year, 2019, was when they were filming the documentary, and Jamie Lee passed away, and then I had to do the show without her and stuff. But it was
that must have been really tough, man. I mean, Jamie Lee I only met briefly a couple of times, but a fantastic voice and just such a great energy about her. And then having to do the show when you've lost someone, man, that must have been tough.
Yeah, I mean, she was amazing. Like, although it was like my name on a lot of the show posters, she was the real star. Like, she had this gift, and a lot of people knew her from festival circuits and stuff. She had that bubbly personality, and yeah, it was weird. And our mum, Mary, actually passed away recently as well. So it was quite hard because she was someone who was a big supporter of me and of the show and documentary and all this stuff. And she asked me to do the eulogy at her funeral, which was really just before the Fringe kicked off. And it was weird, but I just felt like, you know, she was with me, and she still is with me and stuff. So I've got like a picture on my shoulder for her and all this. But doing that was weird. And that, when they were filming the documentary, I'd already done like 10 shows in a row or something. And then that was like my 11th or 12th show. And I was also working full time. And then I was doing that, they were filming me. And like when I do the show, I produce the show as well. So I'm trying to like park my car. But and you know, in Edinburgh, the parking, I can't pay for parking. So I have to try and figure out how I'm going to get the drum kits up and all this. So so sometimes I'm trying to park in a space, and I'm going to be on stage in like 10 minutes, and it's all this stuff was happening. It was quite mad. But in the documentary, they got me at that point, and I was working in Slater's, and then I did the Fringe show, and then straight after I went to do a show at Stramash, and then I slept in my car, and then I went to work, and then I'm doing another show, and I still had another 10, 15 shows or whatever it was left. to do at the Fringe back to back every single night while you're working. And there will never be anything, I don't think, as a performer that will challenge me as much as that. Like doing a concert to me seems like a breath of fresh air after doing that, because it was the theatre takes so much out of you physically as well, because you're talking, you're rating, you're boxing, you're rapping, and it's like crazy. But as Fringe shows, we didn't really have a lot of rehearsal, and I'm very lucky that people enjoyed it and I was able to give some entertainment. But I know I could do it a lot more justice, in the future and stuff. But it was tricky. But probably better than anyone, and what it's like. People see the glory, they don't know your story, and sleeping in your car or pulling the drum kits up or dealing with promotion as well, having to compete with 4,500 shows and bring people in when you've got no publicity and all this stuff. It's all in the Fringe. How it works is all these big billboards and stuff are bought up by huge advertising companies and stuff. So a lot of the big acts have thousands and thousands of pounds with publicists behind them. So it's very hard to even compete with them, even if you do have a venue. So it was really like a boot camp for me for performing, promoting, organising, producing, and then theatre was also an alien world to me as well. So that was something else which was quite mad, but it's good we survived.
It's crazy, man. Even just parking in Edinburgh gives me the fear. It's not easy. And for anyone who doesn't know Edinburgh, I've loaded in and loaded out a few drum kits in my time in Edinburgh, and it just makes it's never that fun a job. But
it's not fun.
Edinburgh just makes things a little bit trickier. It's the most unflat city ever created. You're constantly walking uphill, even when you're walking downhill. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, but it's such a beautiful city because it's so odd. I think just the way, the shape of it. I absolutely love it, man. And I've got the Save Me song. We'll stick that on with Jamie Lee and yourself.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of musicians on there as well from a band. So yeah, it was actually Hamish we recorded with the band there. Hamish?
Hamish?
Yeah.
Mate, so, I swear to God, I'd literally got a text message from him, came up 2 seconds ago. He's tuned in some level. But yeah, Hamish, man, I wouldn't be doing this show without Hamish. It was an audio podcast before lockdown all happened. It was just a kind of sort of, and he helped master all the audio. And then when I told him about the idea to move it to an internet TV thing, because I just worried that the podcast wasn't going to cut it, which was probably, looking back, the right decision. I thought I needed to make it more kind of interactive and live, just to keep people sort of connected and just sort of keep myself busy as well. And it was Hamish who helped me with equipment and just knowledge and just, he just said, because I had no idea what I was getting into technical wise and stuff like that. So this show would not be possible was it not for Hamish, man. So big ups to Hamish. Sorry interrupting you, but yeah, what else has Hamish been up to, the legend?
Yeah, Hamish is great. That song with Jamie Lee, I remember that day, and it was like we had all these musicians that were there, and it was an amazing experience. And Jamie Lee was just in the zone because she was at her best when she was around, people that inspired her, because she inspired everyone, but she wasn't the sort of that wanted to just be herself in a recording booth, just doing her thing. She loved that sort of band experience and being around people and chatting and being out there, and just, she was her lungs was phenomenal. And Hamish was recording that one. And then even for Jamie Lee's funeral, he helped me out with putting a medley together of her stuff. But it was just really hard because what she's singing about and the emotion is so raw. But I think one thing I was saying to a lot of people, even in the band, when you're doing rehearsals every night, you're working, you're going to rehearsals and you're exhausted, and you just feel like, what am I doing this for as a musician? You don't make any money, and you're doing these gigs and you're losing money to do the gigs, and you're paying for rehearsals, and then you're just running against walls all the time. It feels like that, but it's your art and you have to do it. It's not because you get money from it. You have to, or you die. So that's what art is to me. And when we did that thing with Jamie Lee, now we have all these experiences and songs that are captured, so our voices are forever immortalized. And that's because we had those moments, and it makes me realize how important these moments are when we don't appreciate it at the time. So that was Hamish, and he's a legend, like you say. And this Save Me is the track that we did with Jamie Lee and stuff. So at the end of it, it goes into like the live band and all that. And yeah, it's quite an emotional one, and I just chopped some things together for her mum. It was like her birthday last year, and I thought I'll just put some clips we have together of the different gigs and stuff. And her mum was like a really big supporter and stuff. But I know, you know, they're looking down and they'll be up there in heaven and stuff like that. So having a good time.
It's brilliant, man. I'm just going to play this just now. An incredible voice. This is Jamie Lee Lister.
People that haven't been there themselves, feeling that low, they don't understand.
But yeah, when people ask me how I'm doing, I say I'm fine, generally.
I wish at that time I had realised that other people go through it, that I can talk to other people.
Woke up, my sister screaming, family phone is beeping. The day before my cousin got killed on the road for speeding. It was my mother's birthday, today sister's receiving the news. A friend who's suicidal lost her life to demons. 2 weeks ago she was at my show, it's inconceivable. Sitting at her funeral and still I can't believe it. No hope, I'm drowning, blood is choking up my breathing hole. Struggle spreading off to those above me, all I see is ghosts.
And I can't save you now. I cannot save you now. I can't save you now. I cannot save you now. I can't save you now. I cannot save you now. I can't save you now. I cannot save you now.
In the darkness, can't detect the imminent threat. No infrared, sixth sense. Still I do listen to death. Best friends, tears shed, pressing a gun to his head, crying, talking to me. Just discovered his son is dead. Whiskey burns his chest. He says there is no stopping me. Try and say we're free, but really we're the system's property. Now my eyes are watery, living a dichotomy. Maybe I could take his place and he could write a song for me. Discombobulated by self-hatred in this matrix. People say I'm great, but I keep feeling like I ain't shit. Go ape shit, it's blatant. I think I need a facelift. Staring in the mirror at a mess. You can't save this.
I can't save you now. I cannot save you now. I can't save you now. I cannot save you now. I can't save you now. I cannot save you now. So many fallen angels, but I can't save you now. Ooh. So many fallen angels, and I can't save you now. Ooh, oh, I can't save you now. Oh, I can't save you now. Oh, I can't save you now. You cannot save me now. You cannot save me.
Incredible stuff. And RIP to Jamie Lee, of course. What a voice, man. Lots of people in the comments as well with Bernie saying what a voice. Beautiful, says James, and a really a brilliant tribute. Stevie, you should be proud of that.
It was a lot of people, you know, helped me with that. So I was just part of it, but there was a lot of people helping, engineers and Hamish and producer Sean and all the band as well. They're great. So yes, but again, I just like I was saying, when it comes to these rehearsals and these songs, and Jamie Lee was a very sensitive person, a sensitive soul, and she could feel the energy in the room. So if someone was feeling bad or something, she would always be the person to sort of try and console them. But that's why it's important that the art that we do, whether it's music or writing, whatever, we don't think it at the time how important it is, but to have that now, her voice will live on forever. And there's other stuff, even unreleased stuff, which is going to be on the new album. And to be honest, it gives even me a little bit of drive, just knowing that she's there and we could put her into something in a loop pedal or whatever and play her at festivals. Her voice is still going to get heard everywhere. And yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one, mate. It's just a weird.
I'm recording just now for the Jackal Trees album over a couple of LIGO beats, and he's passed away like over a year ago now, and it's just about a year and a half ago now, and it's just it's wanting to do it justice. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I can relate to that. Just like, but I'm at the point now where I'm just going to do it and try not to overthink it at the end of the day. But it's going to be good to just get back on that beat and just make something good. Do you know what I mean? Because I think I'm at the stage now where I'm thinking I think in general, just the whole album, I've just been overthinking it a bit. And because everything that's going on as well, rather than the concept that I originally had just doesn't seem right anymore just because of the time. And there's no point in me making an album that doesn't seem right because it might not, when is it going to come out? In a year? I don't know. So I just thought, the album's called At This Point, and just I've got these beats, some amazing beats, some from LIGO, some from others, and just just rather than be worried about it getting out of date or it being too topical, it's just embrace it and just call it At This Point. And if it's out of date, then it's fine, because at the end of the day, it's going to be an interesting time capsule to look back and say, what was I thinking in 2020 and 2021? So I just thought, fuck it, I'm just going to go for it.
That's good. You're just an artist. You're a typical artist. There's nothing wrong with that, mate. But I think sometimes, and I've got so many friends like this that are way more talented than me, and I'm like, the best songs in the world are sitting on people's laptops or their sound systems, and no one will ever hear them. Because we're obsessed about also the way we put it out. Like, I don't know how I could barely work Snapchat and all that shit. I'm not even like,
I've not figured that out at all.
I'm like a dinosaur, but I need to figure it out. The Spotify, it's like, don't hate the player, hate the game. Well, no, embrace the game, get in it. Like, whatever's happening, fuck the algorithm, I'll fight with it and figure out how all this shit works. But just please, like, I'm trying to figure this out. And like, at the end of the day, as artists, we're just going to be like that, obsessed. Oh, it needs to be out on this day, and everyone's waiting, and it has to be perfect. And really, at the end of the day, no one gives a fuck. I think people give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They want to listen to it. They don't care what hour it's out. They just want to fucking listen to it. And then there's so much stuff. Like, what was it you were talking about earlier on about stuff that's out in the media? There's so, like, when we're talking about the death rate. So the death rate with COVID, we hear it every day. It's so much. And sometimes you get desensitized to it because every day they just keep telling you numbers and numbers and numbers. Whereas if you know one person that's passed away, that must just be heartbreaking. But even with music, even with art, there's just so much stuff getting flung left, right, and center. Even if it's good, how do you know? How can you intellectualize what's going on? Because our heads are exploding with so much good stuff. So I don't know. It's figuring it out as an artist, just getting it. Because then one thing, like, you have that one thing, and then people catch on, and then they go, oh, I want to see what else he's got, and then they see a whole back catalogue streams or sells. And why, I'm ranting a bit, mate. Sorry.
No, you're bang on, man. I mean, I wouldn't worry about me being too much of a perfectionist. I certainly can't take that tag. If you spoke to my former band member, he'd be like, perfectionist, because I'm like a bit more like, right, okay, it's time to let's just get this out. But I think I do spend a few weeks or months contemplating, thinking about it, having a wee think, but the process is normally quite. That's what I love about Jackal Trade stuff, is I've got a lot more freedom than I have in like my other band, because it's just some brilliant beats, and I can just sort of thread it all together in one time. So like, I've just started this, and we're going to be doing recording at the weekends, and March is my time limit. I think the opening song is called From March to March. So I need to, you know what I mean? For it to, so I'm going to release it in March. That's my deadline.
Great,
I mean,
great.
Passive Advisor, I recorded that in 2 weeks from start to finish because I just, once I get, you know, just get it done. And that's why sometimes I kind of, you know, if the take's not that good or I make a mistake, I'm like, do you know what? It's raw, it's punk, it's just the way it is. I meant it to be like that. I don't know. So I'm not overly, because it frustrates me when we've talked about this in the show a few times. I totally agree with you. There's people out there that are super talented. The most talented probably are the ones you never hear because they are obsessing over it, just try to get it just right. And then 10 years passes and they've not released anything. And
that's good. Have you got a date for it? And March coming out yet, or you just know it's March?
No, I just know that I'm not going to. I know that what you should be doing. What I would advise other people, young artists, if they're releasing something, is get it finished and give yourself a few months lead in to promote it and get it out there to people and stuff. But I'm being brutally honest that I don't right now. Don't think there's a huge demand for jackal trades or for radio or magazines or any of the traditional sense. So I'm just going to get the album finished. I'll get the album finished in March the 5th and it'll be out in March the 7th or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
or it may be March the 31st. It needs to be out in March, basically. It needs to be out in March. That's my limit. So I'll be a wee bit disappointed if I get to the 31st. But that's timekeeping is not my best thing. So it probably will be the 31st of March at 11:59. Maybe that's a time to do it at this point. Coming in the 31st of March at 11:59. Yeah, man.
That's great.
So I will just get tore into it, man. But I'm getting into it again as well. I suppose that, but I think the longer that you have a break from recording as well, it's bigger in your head than it actually is. What you just need to do is just start recording, man. Just record.
Yeah, get used to it. Yeah. Do you miss performing? You kind of get an itch to perform it. Like, do you find when you perform you get more creative with the recording, or do you just? Because I find when I was doing the Fringe every night, all I wanted to do was write and record. It was weird. It was like giving me more creativity. The fact that I was out, even though I was doing the same songs every night, it was making me want to do more, which is really weird. I guess the more you do it.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I'm absolutely missing the performance. I mean, that was my life was either performing or organising stuff. So that was just taken away, man. Everything that I do. So I mean, I've been lucky. I'm very grateful that I've managed to be able to fill my time with doing something that I feel is good. It's just been good to just catch up with people and hear what other people are doing, and that kind of still gets the creative juices going as well, just by listening to other people's. Because obviously I'm preparing by listening to your music or watching your documentary, so I'm still keeping up to date with what other people are doing. But performing is the best thing. There's just something about it, even not just performing. The thing I think that there's that bit in your film where you one of your mates where you're just having a wee freestyle in the car and you say something like, I actually would just rather have done this for 3 weeks than all the other stuff, because the magic moments are like just in a rehearsal room and something clicks, an idea that you know is good, and then it finally just clicks and you can go, yeah, we've got this, we've got a hang here. Or when you're performing live and the crowd just seem to get it as well. I think Lou's saying the last Stramash gig you guys played was amazing. What a night. I mean, that was a night. It was us and Nicky Nine, so it was like a bit of a Glasgow invasion plus all the Edinburgh crew as well, and it was an amazing night, man, and that's a buzz, and of course, man, absolutely miss it. We've done a wee bit of the stuff live from Capture Works, which is great. It's as much as we can get to a sort of interactive experience. But it's you need to see the crowd, man. You need to you know the feeling when you win someone over, which especially in my Fringe, you've got to win people over, because a lot of the times it's Stramash, they're not there for you. So you've got to win a crowd over, or a festival as well. That's a nice experience when you actually see the crowd getting bigger rather than the crowd getting smaller, which also happens. I have scared a crowd away before as well. But it's great, man. And
that's I think when you're when I was abroad in America, that was what I relished. It's like going in somewhere where nobody knows you, you've no cronies, you've no your friends or anything. And I had this one gig where I headlined in Brooklyn at the Paper Box, and someone came up to me after it and they said, you know what, I thought you were going to be a gimmick, like a Scottish rapper, but you're actually the real deal. And that like really stuck with me. It meant a lot, because I think if you can turn a place around, like you say. And sometimes people are just like, they're not wanting to be impressed. And the theatre world is different as well, because you get these reviewers and they just sit there and just stare. And because theatre, you're not allowed to like jump up and down. They just stare at you, like analysing every word you say. And you've got to try and win those people over. But it's funny when you were talking about me sitting in the car, like I was thinking about what I always remind myself of is when you were a wee kid and you started writing and you started doing your music and you didn't really have all the access to everything now. Like I remember I was a tape cassette with my mate just writing bars and rapping and stuff. If I was to tell that kid that I've got all this stuff now, you can record, you've got bands, you can do all this stuff, videos, you can put your music out there, you've got all this at your fingertips, you know. Even with me with the documentary and stuff, if I was to tell that kid that, I'd realise how lucky I am. And you're going to have a show, a fringe show. So I need to remind myself, I think we all get caught up in views and streams, but if you were to give that kid everything, it would blow our minds. It would totally blow our minds.
I had an interesting, I seen a meme or something like that, and it was like, would 14-year-old you think that your age now is cool? Which is quite a good way to look at it.
Yeah, yes, perfect.
This is good. I quite like it. I quite like that. There's some quite good tunes there. And I think that it's important. It's that never-ending chase, and you've got to just stop. And I think that, you know, I think I've been quite good at that. I mean, I know that I definitely enjoy like a festival moment when it's just good. You know, it's actually just allow yourself to enjoy it. And I think it's quite helpful not to have any delusions of grandeur as well, and just like, but you've got to be motivated as well. So it's just a kind of a mixture. But what you say about being lucky as well, that's what I was telling myself at the weekend. I started doing some recording there, and I was like, okay, I have to change the studio up from live streaming. I have to move the studio around a wee bit. But I was just thinking, wait a minute, this is what you've actually been wanting for the last, 20 years, is like to have your own recording setup. And now I'm like, oh, it'd be good to bounce off ideas off someone. I'm like, just shut up, just record. You know if it's good and you can just fix it. And then obviously I'll be sending it to a proper producer to sort of make it sound a bit better, because my production levels aren't on point yet. But, I'm very lucky. This is the first time in my life that I've actually got the ability to record from home. So just enjoy it, man, and get to it.
The problems that we want in our life, these are the things that we should be lucky to have, these problems and stuff. But I think it's good, and what you're doing is great, mate. I see, you're giving so many people a place to go, and it's like a sense of community and stuff. And thanks for asking me on as well. It's great. I was going to say as well, my name isn't actually Creed. My surname's McGee. So we're probably related, mate. And I'm an MCGHEE. So people, there's the two McGees, but I'm MCGHEE. So that's probably why we've both got that hyper thing inside of us,
Well, actually, there's a third one as well. There's the eyes as well, man. But that's probably, well, there's definitely a lot of similarities. Get into bother, flee the country, and then against every single bit of advice, just try and become a musician or an artist.
Just do shit, Just do shit. That should be it. Just do shit, whatever it is.
Constant slaps to the face and kicks to the shin. And just keep doing it. What about the boxing thing, man? We didn't really touch the boxing. So did you just stop doing boxing? Are you still in training, or is that, because obviously at the fringe? Because I was not when you were explaining what you were doing at the fringe, and you were I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, you were boxing during your show as well, doing the shadow boxing, I'm assuming. But just that'll take it out of you as well. An extra bit of effort that you've had to put in.
Yeah, that was stupid. That was and the stupid thing I did for the show, for some reason, the scene where I'm boxing, I'm talking about this spar I have in Brooklyn, and I'm throwing all these punches, and then I go and do a song straight after it, and then go back to boxing, and I'm like, why didn't I just do the song before or do it after? Why did I have to do it in the middle of boxing? I'm like such an idiot. But I thought, oh, it'll be cool, like, you're sitting down in the ring corner, and I go into a song. It's like, no, it's fucking ridiculous. What are you doing? So I did that. I mean, the boxing, when I was a kid, sort of 12 years old, I went to a boxing gym, and then I was doing music, and all those two things were running parallel in my life. But I wanted to go to Brooklyn to test myself to see how good I was. And then I started boxing out there. Well, I had some fights over here as well, but over there I had some fights. But New York's one of these places that pulls you in so many directions. So I got involved in so it was a crazy story, but I got involved in New York Fashion Week and I was modeling and stuff. Don't know how that happened, but all these things started happening with the music, the modeling, even bits of acting and stuff. So that kind of pulled me away from the boxing, but also I wasn't really disciplined enough to be a professional fighter at that point, like to be in the gym every single day. Initially, when I went out there, I thought I had the talent, and I had probably raw talent, and I did learn so much over there. That just the little intricacies that they teach you, and there's a lot of trainers now, but there's not so many teachers. And there they have the guy Tyrone that's in the documentary. Actually, he was a real teacher. You throwing a jab for 6 months, perfecting it, throwing it the correct way with no telegraphing and stuff like that. But again, I was getting pulled in all these directions. So I was partying, I was a Scottish teenager running around Brooklyn, and then
what is it about Scottish teenagers and all our great sporting hopes, partying?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it's the same old story.
I mean, we've got a lot of good fighters now, like Josh Taylor and Lee McGregor. There's a lot of great talent, but for me, I was just not disciplined at that point, and I think I was writing all this music, and when I was staying in the motel, like I was telling you earlier on, I actually got taken to a music studio within a week of me being there, so I was still at that motel. And it was weird, before I'd even went to the boxing gym, I was in a music basement studio in East New York, and they found out I was living at the Galaxy, and that gave me like all the street credibility, because like, yo, he living at the Galaxy, yo, this guy's crazy, man. He's from fucking Scotland, he's living at the Galaxy, he looks like a fucking choir boy. They're like, this guy is nuts. So that gave me like a little bit street credibility, and then the music started really taking off because I had so much to write about, and I just felt like these are all stories that I want to get out there, because the Brooklyn Scotsman might seem like it's about me, but it's really about all the people surrounding me that have helped me and got me to this point, and paying homage to them. And although, like, even in the book, there's the contradiction of all this violence, drugs, these things that happen, getting robbed, seeing stabbings, shootouts, but the people that embraced me and took me in, and also the people in Scotland supported me and still support me, that's really what this is about. And it's gratitude's so important to me, because I know what's out there, and probably like yourself, I know that there's homeless rappers and homeless musicians in Brooklyn subways or New York subways, and they do it every single day, and no one will ever hear them. So it kind of humbles me to come here and just put that out there, because I know what's out there in the world and stuff like that. Just the same as here, there's so much talent. But the boxing, I still love it. I'm obsessed with it. I've got fucking Muhammad Ali and all that up here. But as far as being a professional, I probably wasn't disciplined enough, and I still like to think I'd like to have a fight and stuff, but who knows? This Corona thing just keeps knocking you back, and every time I want to go and have a fight, something happens, like documentary or theatre and stuff like that. And it's probably just watching too many Rocky films, because when you get in there and you start getting punched, you're like, aye, it isn't as hard. It's harder than I remembered it. So
with regards to the writing of the book, I suppose by playing out the theatre show every day in the Fringe would have actually been really good training, mentally and physically, I suppose. But just to sort of living the themes constantly. So was that helpful? And how difficult is it to write a book? Obviously, I've got a short concentration span. It's something that I would love to do one day. But it was a cathartic experience. Is it tricky? How did you find it?
I think I started that 2000, like last year, towards the beginning of last. No, I've missed a year because of this lockdown.
Everyone's missed a year, man.
Yeah, I've missed a year. So 2019 it started, and it's tricky. Lucky I've got help with it, but it's weird going back. I think reading it, I just read it again recently, and it just reminds you of things, and it makes you appreciate things, and it also reminds you who you are. And I think some of us, we need to be reminded who we are and how strong we can be and what we've got through to get to this point. And we can forget that a lot of the time, because when you went through the fire, you can go through it again and stuff. So that was a really good thing. And also doing people justice. And same with the documentary. I didn't want, to paint anyone in the wrong light. I don't really care if it's me, fair enough. But if it's someone that I care about and they've helped me. I don't want them to be painted in the wrong light. So with the book, you've got to make sure that everyone's represented correctly. And that's really the tricky thing. And then it's just about honing it down, because although it's a book, you might have all these great stories, but you have to cut some of them, because even like I was telling you about the robbing, like and the violence, I got robbed a lot of times, but you keep putting in, I got robbed here and I got robbed there and I got robbed there. It's like it loses its impact, and it's, oh, I saw this shootout, I saw this person get stabbed, I saw that person get shot, and then the audience member can't compute it because it's just too much. So I think that's, and you probably like yourself with music, you learn, you know, there's all these characters if you're producing, which I'm not really a producer, but this is what a producer, Sean, taught me. Like, you've got all these characters, the bass, the drums, the kick, and you've got your lead characters, but you can't have 1,000 main characters, and there's only enough space in the track for the kick and the bass to take up all this space. So it's the same when you're doing a documentary, or you're doing a song, or you're doing a book, even though like it's 15 chapters, but even that has to be condensed. And it's interesting, you have to kill your babies, like they say with editing in the film, you kill your babies. I mean, the documentary had so much footage.
Is that Orwell quote? Kill your darlings. I think is I think Loki did a B-side album called "Kill Your Darlings." It's about 30 tracks for an album, and it's a difficult process, man. I mean, I couldn't do that. With Darren actually just records like actual full songs and then deletes them, and I've got to kind of like, I killed the darlings at an earlier stage, you know. I'm just like that won't, what that think's going to be better than that, or it's telling a similar story to that, because it's difficult. I mean, I've still got all lyrics, man. I keep them all. I'm going to need to digitalize them because it's too much, man. Too many lyrics. They're not, and it's most of it's shite, but just not been quite as good recently. But just trying to write constantly is just what I've always done. And as a result, there's just so much shite to go through. And then I always think, well, I'm going to go for this album, I'm going to go through them all. But I haven't. I've just wrote all new stuff again. It's kind of like you're cheating if you use old stuff, even though nobody's ever heard them, including myself, because it was just written down.
But that's, I mean, it's still from you. And I think when I was abroad as well, I was recording at this guy, Steve Sola, and he's like recorded Nas, Mobb Deep, 50 Cent, all these people. And he has this quote up, and it says, a great professional is knowing what not to do. And I thought it's so true. And it's the same with, you know, writing, or, you know, it's knowing what not to do. There's a track that I did, and I got it mixed 15 times and did it all these different ways, live bands, no live bands, different drums. It was just beating a dead horse. And I couldn't understand it, why I was just wanting to just keep doing it again and again and again. And it was a big lesson to like, just, you should have just killed it there and then. But mixing it 15 times, the engineer, Sean, was going crazy. He was like, this is just nuts. But I think that's also a good thing, because music, I don't know, sometimes things do take longer, but really if it's instant, your first reaction is usually the right one. Your first instinct is usually the right thing. So if it's a flow, or it's a lyric, or it's something, a lot of the time your first instinct, but we fight against that because we overthink it. As creatives and artists, you'll overthink it in your mind.
And that frustration where you're hearing it in your head, but you can't replicate it outside. That is annoying. An annoying thing. Stevie, what we're going to do is we're going to, before we wrap up, we're going to end with one more song. I've got a Zombie Nation lined up, but good luck with the book. And I'm just going to bring that up on the screen as well. Check out the new single on Spotify. Get Stevie, it's at Stevie Creed, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And yeah, tell us about Zombie Nation. It's a cracking video.
Yeah, thank you. Zombie Nations, it was filmed by Keir Sewer, and it was just in a black room. Decided, he says, you do a lot of videos with all this hoopla, I want to do something with just you. It's just a top off covered in blood, so I was covered in all this fake blood and stuff. And he got me rapping, which is quite difficult to do. He said, I want to speed up the video, so some of it, he said, I want you rapping like extra slow or extra fast, and then he would speed it up and rewind it and all this. So I had to either do it rap at half pace or rap at double pace for some of the video, and you know that's where that came from. So combination, and thanks.
We actually shot a video with that for a song called Late Night Sketchy, and we actually went all the hassle with filming it with candles, and we lit it and all that, and then it was decided that we would just get an animator in to do a great job to do it. But
Yeah.
I was confused because I was like, well, why don't we get the animator in for another tune? Because we've just got 2 videos. I actually should just release that because I think people
It's a learning experience. People will probably want to see it as well, so it's great.
I've got to say as well, actually, on that point, John McKinley said hello earlier on. John, if you're still with us, thanks. Because John just uploaded a video today of my band Gyro Babies playing at Stereo in December 2017. I've not watched it all yet, but it was good to see that it exists, and it's on YouTube just now. So I'm probably not going to watch it tonight or anytime soon, but it's a bit difficult watching it back. But I'll probably put it on through a good sound system when I've got a few beers in me one night. So thanks to John for doing that. If anyone else is interested, go and check it out. It's on YouTube just now. And who else we got? Looking forward to the book, says Ali.
Thank you.
And so is Bernie. Soapy saying 31st of March, 11:59 is a dead cert. It is probably the way it will happen. And yeah, man, great to chat to you tonight, man. Good luck with all you're doing. And if anyone's watching this, keep an eye out for the documentary. I'm sure it'll be back on soon.
Yeah, thanks for everyone's support as well. Even with the documentary, all that, it was great. I was getting so many messages. A lot of people from Glasgow as well were hitting me up, asking when I'm going to perform there, and it's something I've never really had the chance.
Well, man. Yeah, this is a moment in history that we talked about for hundreds of years to come, and if we can just sort of hang in there for a wee bit longer, we're going to witness in real time the party returning. And the gigs are going to be like nothing else, man.
Stronger than ever. Never happened in history. Shakespeare, the same thing happened to him. He was down in a pandemic and all that and came out. So I was
even during World War II, they still had the techno clubs, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, amazing. We've got all that to look forward to. And we're just going to play it out with This Is Zombie Nation by Stevie Creed. Nice one, man.
Thank you. Cheers.
Well, hold on, I've pressed the right button. Yeah, this one. Yeah, and guys, if you've not seen the shows, there's some great shows that we've had on this week. I'll put a wee trailer on at the end of the song so that you can see what you've missed. And just go to the YouTube channel if you're watching YouTube. Remember to hit the subscribe button. And thank you to all the patrons who support the show. It's not possible without you. And this is Stevie Creed with Zombie Nation.
Thank you.
Zombie Nation live, Zombie Nation live. All I see is confrontation, fucking with my observations. Zombie Nation live, Zombie Nation live. Ready for my conversation, talking to my congregation. Lips in my pocket, staring at the hourglass. Hours last forever, my body needs a power nap. Baseball bat tendencies, my attitude is whack. Now my brain's imprisoned on an island like it's Alcatraz. Bars in my repertoire, streaming like a reservoir. Spread they get around the web, my neck is getting stretched hard. Boulevard, dreams, sleeping homeless in my friend's car. Reputation's building like the interest on my credit card. Zombie Nation live, Zombie Nation live. All I see is confrontation, fucking with my observations. Zombie Nation live, Zombie Nation live. Ready for my conversation, talking to my congregation. Zones in my dome, made a ghost like a poltergeist. Rolling dice, draining on my body like a bowl of rice. So precise, insects swarm in this locust life. All I want is swapped hate thoughts for a focused mind. Mention my name in a sentence, search internet in an engine. My name is spreading, you're spending time while your intellect's pending. Views on my plane that's ascending. Back with a vengeance, back and amended. Back in school, I was bad with attendance. Blessed, not offended, that's where my rent is. Zombie Nation live, Zombie Nation live. All I see is confrontation, fucking with my observations. Zombie Nation live, Zombie Nation live. Ready for my conversation, talking to my congregation. Zombie Nation live, Zombie Nation live. All I see is confrontation, fucking with my observations. Zombie Nation live, Zombie Nation live. Ready for my conversation, talking to my congregation. Work is an understatement, prep my body like an undertaker. Dig my grave, my tongue's a speed, darts on my name cause I love the haters. Zombie nation, masturbators, self-made man loving my creator. It's in my nature to agitate ya, roam the equator, microphone savior. Celebrate, envy me, recipes, jealousy, battling demons, fighting the enemy, try succeed while finding the energy, finding the remedy, trying to better me back in the matrix, back to the basics, back to the lab in the back of the basement, Satan fucking hatred like a rapist, now back full-time working the slave ship. Zombie nation, zombie nation, all I see is confrontation, fucking with my observations. Zombie nation, zombie nation, ready for my conversation, talking to my congregation. Zombie nation, zombie nation, all I see is confrontation, fucking with my observations. Zombie nation, zombie nation.
Yeah, no respect in every aspect of the man like Mark. They love how the man talk on the radio. In case you never know. You call that radio, radio. Call that the radio, radio. You call that radio, radio. Call that the radio, radio. Come and say, eeny, meeny, my name, oh, just go with the flow. Eeny, meeny, my name, oh, just go with the flow. Till you Mr. Mark, now go bend down low. Till you Mr. Mark, now go bend down low. Boom. Lot of mercy. Yo. You call that radio, radio. You call that radio, radio. Come and say don't you be another man, I'll go lose your head. Say don't you be another me say and lose the head. Me say radio, radio. Call that a radio, radio. Straight from out of Glasgow, Glasgow. Straight from out of Glasgow, Glasgow. Nice enough on the studio, studio. Come and say eeny, meeny, my name, oh, just go with the flow. Eeny, meeny, my name, oh, just go with the flow. Till you Mr. Mark, now go bend down low. Till you Mr. Mark, now go bend down low. No radio, radio. You call that the radio, radio.